After a winter of waiting and a summer that was interminable, there's a little bit of a cool breeze in the air. And ladies and gentlemen, that can only mean one thing. It is football season. Welcome on into the NAIAF Ball live show week. I feel like it's -1 here. Not quite week 0 here. Back live with you for the first time this football season. Matt Schwartzler here along with me. Matt, how ready are you to see toe put to leather?
I am so excited. This is the first year that I get to watch football as a fan, so this will be new for me, and I'm especially excited to keep up with the NAIA. There's a lot of fun stuff going on in this level of football this season. I have been waiting for this for months, so
I feel like
finally here.
it's going to be a little weird for you this year being on this side of things.
Yeah,
It's
it's it's a transition for sure, but it is a welcome one. I think my body especially is thanking me right now. Um, but yeah, we're here. We're here, man. Finally.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get right to it. There is going to be no delay into the fun of the top 25 media poll. Back with a new look this year. We'll talk about the new look here after a while and thank our intrepid designer that's going to be working with us this year. So here it is in all its glory. Starting at the top, and we'll go, I guess, by fives like we usually do. We'll stop and chat about them. At number 1, the reigning national champions, the Northwestern Red Raiders, take 5 first-place votes. At number 2, Morningside, not far behind here, only 4 points behind the Red Raiders, 2 first-place votes. Grandview and Marion tied for 3rd, and Kaiser 1 point behind them at 141. Matt, what do you think about this top 5?
I mean, it makes sense. I feel like Northwestern, far and away, is the overall #1 team this year. I think Morningside has some adjusting to do. Obviously, without Joe Dolancheck, it's a new era of football for them. I feel like, and just with what we've seen from Grahamstad, and the fact that he has like 2 more years of eligibility at least, it's insane. And I don't know. There's nothing I feel like that's really going to stop them. It's another season of probably #1 and #2 playing in the regular season to win the conference. Yeah, that's my initial thought. Just seeing the first top 2 there.
And then 6 through 10, we've got Lindsey Wilson, Indiana Wesleyan, Bethel of Tennessee, 1 point behind St. Thomas in a much more respectable position, in my humble opinion, from their spot in the coaches poll, in my opinion. And Benedictine rounds out the top 10. I'm going to point out here that if you look from 3rd to 8th, you're looking at a range of 6 points over, that's 2, 4, 6 teams. 1 point average spread there. I really think this 3rd through 8 is as tight as the voters think it is.
I agree. There's just so much competition kind of in that 1B tier of football in the NAIA this season. I feel like Lindsey Wilson and Bethel. Georgetown's not in that mix of points, but I think even throwing them in there, like they're just going to beat the crap out of each other during the regular season and during conference play. I also, like you mentioned, love the St. Thomas respect. I think I had them even higher on my poll. But they're going to give Kaiser some trouble this year. I really do think that. And I think Kaiser's losing enough to where that's going to be probably a top 10 battle for the conference. And I am excited to see how that goes.
Going 11 through 15, we have Bethel of Kansas. That's a major swing. I'll come back to that because I find that really interesting. Georgetown, College of Idaho, Carroll, and Kansas Wesleyan round out 11 through 15. Bethel in the coaches poll is sitting at 23. That is, we have, us and the coaches have two different ideas about what Bethel's got.
Yeah, I just think this is another team like St. Thomas that has such an insane chip on their shoulder, and we talked about it during our season previews. And they bring back pretty much everybody. Like, there's no reason why this team doesn't make a lot of noise. I just find it interesting with all the pieces they have coming back that you have teams like, in the coaches poll, Southwestern, I think, is ahead of them, correct? In the
Yeah.
coaches poll. And I just don't wholeheartedly agree with that, if I'm being completely honest. This is a team that is scary. They are in that territory for me going into next season. I'm glad to see that they are nearer top 10 because I think they will make some noise into the top 10 in the season.
Going 16 through 20, we've got Dort, which is another one we slightly disagree with the coaches, a 9-point differential or a 9-place differential between us and the coaches. Southwestern at 17, Avila at 18, Ottawa of Arizona at 19, and Reinhardt rounds out our top 20. Reinhardt, a 10-place difference between us and the coaches. Coaches have them in their top 10.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting to see what teams are so different. I think Dort is another case of like this is a team that you really have to consider who they're bringing back, because they bring back a lot and they have a lot of good things going for them. I don't know. I can't say I really disagree that this much with this part of the ranking. It looks pretty solid.
And then the bottom 6, as we have a tie for 25th. That's going to be Montana Western and Texas Wesleyan tied for 21st. Midland, St. Xavier, Concordia, and Dickinson State round out the top 25.
I am a big fan of Concordia starting, and this is Concordia, Michigan, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I am a big fan of seeing CUAA in the top 25. I feel like they're flying under a lot of people's radars. Last year was kind of a rebound for them, and I'm excited to see them work their way up because I truthfully think they're going to be contending for the top of the mid states.
And honestly, once I had the math finished for this poll and I looked at it in all its entirety, I looked at it and I went, our voters did an exceedingly good job this year. I
So
was
too. I
really,
agree.
really proud of the poll. I thought we did a good job uh, of where folks are, and I think it's fair to the teams. Not that the coaches poll is bad. Matt, you can vouch in as much as I can. Sitting in front of that blank screen and having 40 pages of stats in front of you, literally 40 pages of stats. Every team in the NAI, last year's SP Plus, looking at who's leaving, who's returning as we went through every conference. That's part of why we go through every conference, is so that I can be an informed voter for our poll. It's a daunting task to try to assemble a top 25 from scratch.
It really is. And I think, too, the thing we have to remember about the coaches poll is it is from the coaches. They view it in such a different lens that obviously, like, your average media schmucks like me and you might see it. We can look at all the stats, we can look at everything from last season. But at the end of the day, they have a different perspective just from their knowledge of it. So, like you said, it's not anything to discredit the coaches poll. I think that the voters on this media poll did a really good job on this. It turned out really well. But it's curious to see where people's heads are at going into the season. And that's why I like having multiple polls.
Yep, and it definitely showcases the difference there and gives a different perspective. And for that, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for our voters. We've got 7 at this point of the year. It's not just us, like John Cooper always liked to say, and unfortunately, John has had to drop out of the poll this year. I hate it for him, but my man is 1-0 in his high school season, and he's got a long road to hoe in front of him if he wants to, put his school on the map, and so I'll let him off the hook this season. But we do have 7 voters that range from Florida to the middle of the country in Oklahoma, up north to Montana. down to Arizona and back up to Washington State. They're all over the map, so you're not going to get a bias in any geographical area. That's why I love our poll. It's put together well, and I think it makes a good product. But enough of patting my own back, and let's get to the part that is going to drive people crazy, and that is going to be national championship predictions. We'll see what we got here. I'll go first. I'll take the heat here. Look, there's no two ways around it. You've got a returning quarterback who was definitely, if not the best, in the top 3 of quarterbacks when he did actually get the starting role in Jalen Gramstad. You're returning a heavy majority of your team. The only question mark for Northwestern is, can you climb the mountain again? And honestly,
yeah,
why not?
Can. Yeah. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. I really wish that I could say I was picking somebody else. I made some wild predictions in the season previews, but it's about chalk here for the national title. I think it's Northwestern again. They bring back all the pieces. Gramstad is just phenomenal. Their defense is one of the best in the country. They're explosive. They're disciplined. They get things done, and they're returning guys. Like, what more could you ask from a national champion, truthfully?
Absolutely, 100%. And Casey, I can't wait for another year of Comet football. Can't wait to see what Mayville State brings to the table this year. We were so impressed last year with their play and their growth, and we're very excited to see what that continued growth is going to look like for the Comets. But we're going to step away here on the NAIAFBALL live show with a word from our friends at AdCraft. If I can figure out how to make it play. Ah, the joys of live TV.
Technical difficulties.
Ah. Well, I got to reset the camera anyway. I'll be right back. Apologies, everyone, for those technical difficulties. We'll just tell you about them. Our friends at AdCraft, as you have seen us say time and time again, are the apparel merchant uniform experts du jour for the NAIA. Look, I went to that first football game for John Cooper, had all of his players in AdCraft gear, looked sweet, looked clean, just did a really good job. I bought from John, had a web store set up for Franklin County for the Seahawks. I made sure I had a Franklin County Seahawks shirt that I bought from their web store. Super easy, super simple, and I trust that that's going to make it to my house in short order after that web store had its week run. We are so thankful for our friends from AdCraft for another year of their support for us. Whether you're a parent, a student, a coach, a player, AdCraft is who you need to go with, whether it's in business for your team or whether it's going to be for the NAIA and your football team. Look at AdCraft. Take a look at their web stores. They are the best. And NAIA born and bred, they'll work for you. I just about guarantee it. All right, moving on. We got a couple more new sponsors to thank here. Obviously, Telemetry Sports. If you didn't catch us talking about them in the preseason, in the off season, Telemetry Sports is overseeing our plays of the week this year. You'll see that first play of the week from the national championship this week after they get it processed here. Telemetry Sports is a sports data analysis company talking about speed, talking about looking at player statistics, next level data. They can do it for recruiting. They can do it for your broadcast. They can take your broadcast to the next level. They are good in so many areas. Check them out, telemetry.fm. And then finally, as we go into our what to watch for, I'd like to thank Connor Darnell from NAIAFBALL. He is donating his time to us this year to make some sweet graphics. If you want an edit, if you are a recruit and you want that a sweet commit graphic, if you want a team poster for the next year, if you're sick and tired of doing design work, you just want to have someone else do it, check out Connor Darnell. He is definitely one of the best that I've worked with, and makes a really nice product. So check him out. You'll get to see his work during the rest of this season. And here we go. A little bit more of his work. What to watch for starts off Thursday night, the 24th of August at 8 p.m., the Paint Bucket game, Valley City State and Jamestown.
I mean, this is one of the most exciting matchups all season. Just the way it kicks off the NAIA football season every single year. And the game, like the past couple of years, this game has been nuts, like absolutely off the wall. Good old fashioned, old school football. Like I don't know how else to describe it. It's just football in its purest form. And I will actively be watching this
Absolutely.
to its entirety.
If you are a patron on our account, we are planning on doing a live watch along of this game on our YouTube channel. That's going to be patron only. So, Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We'll do it. Obviously, if there's a paid stream, I don't particularly want to pay to do it, but is what it is sometimes. Matt, I'm gonna hold my picks on these for our Patreon page, but I think this game is always a good one. Brian Mistro has had Jamestown on the rise for several years now. This might be the year that Jamestown really comes out and does it. What are you thinking?
I think so too. My thing is I'm so high on Valley City State this year, probably higher than most people that have looked at that team on paper. I picked them to dethrone Dickinson State this season, if anybody has not heard that. So, yeah, I think this team's pretty good. But like you said, Jamestown has also been on the rise. I think this is a Jamestown team that is not getting enough respect going into this season. I just think Valley City State, obviously, home field advantage helps them out a little bit. It could go either way. I could very well see it being like last year where it comes down to a last second or even overtime situation. And plus, it's a rivalry game, and you usually throw most logic out the window for that anyways.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
I think my game of the week, though, is this next one, a 2 p.m. Eastern special. Number 2 Morningside playing at number 10 Benedictine, a rematch of the 2018 National Championship game in Daytona Beach, Florida. This is going to be a look. Okay, both Morningside and Benedictine are replacing their quarterback. So, who finds their signal caller first and whose signal caller that they're finding is the best?
Yeah, and it's going to be fun to see that narrative going into this game. Obviously, clash of former Titans. I won't say fallen Titans because these are obviously both still very premier NAIA football programs. But you say it's in Daytona Beach too, which is just
no. It's that national championship game was in Daytona Beach. It's
okay.
at Benedictine.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was a bit confused there for a second. They used to play the championship at Daytona Beach. What the heck? Um,
Yeah, I will reserve my if there's anyone from Daytona Beach, I'll reserve my comments on Daytona.
yeah, that's fair. But I am super excited for this matchup. I think I'm more so just curious to see both of these teams how they can readjust to losing such big pieces. I think the Morningside's big question going into next season is about the quarterback position and who's filling those shoes and how both these teams can reload. I am obviously super eyes on the GPAC all the time, so excited to see what Morningside can do. But I'm also excited to see Benedictine because they have a lot of holes to fill in their team going into next season and seeing who they can put in those positions to challenge one of the NAI's finest. I'm really excited for it.
Then at 7 p.m. we have Kansas Wesleyan traveling to Nixa, Missouri, to play KCAC newcomer the Evangel Valor.
Mm-hmm. I just Kansas Wesleyan is so good going into next season. I am very high on them as well. But Evangel's nothing to scoff at. New to the KCAC, but they've been very competitive the past couple seasons. I think you will see a very competitive game here. I know you're reserving your picks. I think Kansas Wesleyan squeaks this one out, if I'm being completely honest, but should be a really good game. Very excited for this one.
When we compared the numbers in the offseason, and we did lump Evangel in with the KCAC for obvious reasons, Evangel stacked up very favorably coming over from the
Yeah.
Heart into the KCAC. I do think that this is going to be a fairly even matchup here. It's a good test for Kansas Wesleyan to
Yeah.
start out with, honestly. It proves where you are off of a season where you are not where you wanted to be in 2022. And if you win this one, you stake your claim to a much better season, or at least a better start to the season over a drastically better or over a good opponent.
Yeah, totally.
Next up, Dickinson State travels to the Frontiers Rocky Mountain, a little cross divisional action or cross conference action here. Last year, Dickinson State got off to an 0-2 start against Montana Western and I believe UW La Crosse. Or no, it's Black Hill State.
Yes, it was a D2 team. Yeah.
And this is really going to be a toughie for me. Can Dickinson State dispatch what should be a decent Rocky team this year? Can they show the nation that they can win outside of their own conference?
Yeah, it's very much a prove it game for Dickinson State, not only for themselves, but I think for the entirety of the North Star. You know, they've lost teams and they're looking at a pretty slim league going into next season. But I think there's a lot of people that are discrediting the conference. It's still a very competitive conference, a lot more than people honestly would expect. And I think Dickinson pulling out a win here is not just favorable for them, but for the rest of the North Star, and for them going forward, because they obviously have some decisions to make with the build of the league and other teams and what they're going to do. So I think this has a bit larger implication than we might assume it to.
Just to kind of give you a little sneak peek, we'll be dropping the interview with the NAI later on this week, a little midweek snack for you ahead of the paint bucket game. But the North Star does have 2 years of grace period to find a team to keep their auto bid. And then the Pacific Special, the game that I'm so sorry, fans from Arizona, but I am an old man and I will not be staying up for this game. I got church
I
way too early in the morning.
I will be there. Do not worry.
Where you've got Ottawa of Arizona playing host to former conference mate, now out of conference but down the road rival, Arizona Christian. Could we see maybe an upset first weekend of the year?
It's definitely building to be that way. I think Ottawa has taken a slight step back from where they were last season. Granted, they're still a very good football team and they were super high powered last year. I don't expect anything different for that to happen on their end. But this is a really exciting game. Arizona Christian, obviously, with a competitive squad most years, but this is an Ottawa team that kind of has to fight their way back up to be at the top of the conference with their current roster build, at least. So I'm very excited to see this. I think this is even more fun that it's out of conference because it's kind of just you're going to see all the stops pulled out. There's nothing about conference play tied to it. It's just good old fashioned hate type of rivalry. Very excited to see that dynamic.
This is definitely a prove it year for Mike Nesbitt after losing a large chunk of his team to graduation.
Yeah.
And we'll honestly, this will be the standard, the measuring stick for Ottawa of whether they've been able to develop and recruit over the last few years. Is you got a large portion of your team that's got to step up in starting roles, and it's put up or shut up here for the Spirit.
100%. Excited to see how all these games go, though. This is a terrific slate.
And this is week 0.
Yeah.
This is week 0. I mean, to be fair, about half the teams aren't having a game this year, or not this year, this week. Some of the other ones that's going to be fun that I'm looking at. St. Andrews plays Weber, which is hilarious because those two are like the same university system playing each other. That's like if Ottawa, Kansas played Ottawa, Arizona. That'll be a fun one. St. Thomas plays Fort Lauderdale. That should be a fairly easy game. College of Idaho plays Lincoln of California. That should be fairly easy. Clark Midland might be an interesting one there at the 2 p.m. slot for a not ranked game. Although Midland is receiving votes. Mount Marty versus Culver Stockton might be really interesting at 6 p.m.
That's a fun matchup. Yeah, I like that a lot. You're forgetting one, Corey.
Let me get to the. I'm going by time. I'm going by time. At 7 p.m., Cumberland's plays Kentucky Christian. That'll be a fun one there. McPherson gets started versus Tabor. That's receiving votes. Bethel of Kansas plays Sterling. And then at 8 p.m., you want to talk about some good old-fashioned hate. We've got the stoppable force versus the movable object. I will not comment on which one is which. Dakota Wesleyan versus Dakota State.
This is the year. They're having fun. Dakota Wesleyan is so back. We're so back. I'm super excited to watch this. It's going to be so weird watching this from the television. I'm not going to lie to you. Super excited to see how that one goes, though. This has been a midweek game in past years, so I think Saturday is just a good decision. And I think Dakota Wesleyan by like 150. So,
guys, you don't know how much restraint it took for me to force Matt to pick someone other than Dakota Wesleyan for his dark horse in the GPAC.
Twisting the arm is putting it lightly, I think. But yeah, I obliged. I will be doing Dakota Wesleyan propaganda all season. Don't worry. You will hear enough of it out of me to probably make you want to throw up. So get ready for it because it's going to happen.
It's fair. You gotta rep your brand. But
exactly,
the folks that rep our brand are my favorites, our patrons from the top for the first time in 2023. If you want to join this list and get in on my picks, mine and John's picks, John is actually picking games with me all season on our Patreon. I couldn't let the head coach get away with just leaving entirely, and as well as our patron watch along that will be on selected weeks. Obviously, with me broadcasting for Thomas, I can't watch along every week as much as I'd like to. But from the top, DSU Cone, Bob Boone, Darren. I did those out of order. Oh well. Roger Meyer, Jeremy Vauble, Shirley LaBella, Fred Christensen, Jerry Quickle, Ace Well, and Marty Seabolt. Marty, thanks for upping your contribution to us. We appreciate you. Justin Cobb, Nick Ryan, Hayden Ferrigno, Kyle Gregory, Tyler Pierce, Justin Hoffman, Steve Speakman, Brian Shake, Julianne Shager, Nate Soapbeer, Stephen Cutler, Julie Lout, Tim Burrow, Dale Norton, Nathan Moore, Dylan Gonzalez, Ryan, and Jason Crawford. Guys, this would be a perfect time if you have any questions or comments in the chat. I see that we've got 12 of you in there. Just drop your comments in the chat. We can take a few questions, and we'll see what we've got there. I appreciate the folks sticking with us, especially as I play mid-roll ads over a live show. I am that guy. Sorry. Hopefully it won't distract from the experience too much. But drop questions in the comments. But, man, we are so close for another NAIA football season. I am so excited. I think this is going to be one of our best seasons yet. Like we said in the preseason, the parity is increasing from the bottom up. It's not that the top teams are worse than normal. It's just that the middle of the pack is getting so much better that it makes for good games.
So much better. Yeah, it's extremely impressive, and it's very encouraging to see all these programs building their way up and being competitive, because I think ultimately, like, the more competitive the sport can be, especially with the frustrations of conference realignment and people looking for new ways to enjoy football, I mean, it's great. There's no better time to be watching NAIA football, truthfully.
I mean, look, we got a shout out of 2 NAIA games on Bill Connolly's How to Enjoy Watching Football, which was an article on the Worldwide Leader on ESPN. It was Morningside Northwestern and Bethel Lindsey Wilson were the 2 games that he said that you gotta catch if you're a football fan. And I can't say I disagree. Those are going to be 2 heavyweight matchups. Honestly, I think there's going to be several battles, not just in the GPAC with Morningside and Northwestern. I think the Mid-South is going to be up for a huge Titanic battle. I think the KCAC is going to be up for a huge Titanic battle. The Sun is going to be up for a huge Titanic battle.
The Mid-South.
Yeah, oh yeah. Definitely. A 3-way Titanic battle, honestly.
Yeah, truthfully.
So we're here for it. We are ready to rumble. But until then, and until next week, when we get some scores to report, for Matt Schwartzler, I am Corey Thorpe, and we will see y'all next week. Had an